So, after the complete failure of the DCEU, James Gunn, now head of DC, has decided to start a brand new DC cinematic universe called the DCU. And he has just released his brand new first technical entry to the film cinematic universe, Superman. And so I just saw this movie yesterday by the time I'm recording this, and I'm gonna give my own review of this movie, kind of go over some of the things that I think were awesome, and kind of give a rating out of 10. I will keep spoilers out of this review, so you guys can go see it for yourselves, and you won't have to worry about any of that while watching this review. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, for starters, this movie has a lot riding on it. This is technically the first movie of a whole new cinematic universe to kind of not compete with Marvel, but sort of follow like Marvel's MCU shtick, where, like the movie cinematic universe and everything. This is DCU's Iron Man. And basically, it's important that it does a good job. Now, here's the real question. Did James Gunn cook with Superman? Yeah, 100% he did. Starting off with the characters, you have Superman, aka Clark Kent, and of course, he is the main star of the show. And unlike Man of Steel, which a lot of people compare this movie to, Superman actually has character development in this story. There's a lot that's like falling on his shoulders, and his character arc on the way just starts out and kind of just takes like a twist, sort of, and how it all concludes in the end is very well done, and it's super amazing to Superman's character, and it does justice to what he is supposed to represent, which is, hope, justice, kindness, fairness, all those amazing qualities. So to have him kind of like have a character arc to kind of just sort of expand on that, but also sort of like question it in a sense. I don't want to give out too much spoilers, but Superman does actually feel like a character, unlike, Man of Steel, where he just feels like robotic and emotionless. While Clark Kent, aka Superman, he has a lot of depth to him. He's also human-like, and there's just a lot to like about this character. He's just awesome. Also, David Cornsweet as Superman, he is a very good actor, and he definitely looks the part. He has a lot of moments that he shines. There's not a moment that I can think of where he seemed kind of fake. But yeah, the acting in this movie is also like very well done. All the actors did a very great job. Of course, the main stars here are David Cornsweet and the actor who played Lex. I actually don't know the name for Lex Luthor. Who is his name actually? Nicholas Hoult. That's his name, right? Yeah, Nicholas Hoult. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his last name right. But yeah, those two are the main stars of the show, and they did phenomenal in their acting roles. And so did everyone else. They did a great job, and they really made the film convincing to feel that like it was real. But I can't conclude talking about Superman without talking about Lois Lane, because Lois Lane is also somebody that the movie heavily focuses on. The relationship between Clark and Lois are very focused, and it is a major like subject in the movie of like, with Lois's whole character being like how like she's very distrusting of people, and it contrasts to Superman, where like he trusts them a lot, he believes people a lot. So having like these two opposites like working off each other and trying different methods, they parallel one each other, and they both like grow from that, and like seeing that work, it's actually very amazing. So they give the relationship between Clark and Lois, a lot of heart, a lot of depth, and they work well off each other super good. Unlike Man of Steel. I'm gonna say that a lot because so many people are going to be comparing this movie to Man of Steel. And then you have Lex Luthor, who is just He is a menacing villain. Like, you'll watch this movie and sometimes you'll it's a little bit surprising on how evil Luther really is. Like, it caught me off guard because I don't know, maybe it's because you don't really see villains like this anymore, even with like some Marvel movies. So maybe this is just like kind of bringing like some of the old stuff back, but no, like Luther is an amazing villain in this movie. He's crazy. I love the actor for him. He does such a great job. Like, it's crazy. I feel like a lot of people are gonna love this adaptation of Luther. He's just menacing. He is a great villain, and also, like Lois Lane, he parallels Clark Kent in a sort of sense. What this movie greatly does is they also like parallel Lex and Superman in a different sense, which is, again, it's hard to explain without spoilers, but like they're able to just like parallel each other, and they're kind of like shown to be both sides of the same coin, but also to like the movie tries to differentiate like between them and kind of like hit home the message that, hey, Superman is different. He is a good guy while Lex Luthor is a bad guy, even though like there seems to be these blurry lines of where they actually are more similar. That's actually not the case at all, and I think that's very well done in the way it was executed in the film. But yeah, for that, Lex Luthor is an amazing villain, and it also contributes a lot to Clark Kent's character growth. In terms of story, there is a lot to talk about the story because it is packed with quite a few things. Because from the trailers, there's like a war going on, and then like this evil like villain plot of Lex Luthor, and then the villains that Lex Luthor is using, and then there's just so many other things in this movie that kind of just like surprises you, and it's kind of just like a lot to unpack, and here's the thing. I can't talk too much about the story without talking about like how James Gunn kind of approaches this film in general, because I think in an interview, or I read somewhere in an article, that James Gunn is gonna, I think this is gonna be with the whole DCU, is when he's gonna try to make films in kind of like a Star Wars-esque style. So that kind of explains a lot of the decisions and kind of how the movie flows throughout this film. So you'll see like a bunch of like crazy stuff like portals, or like these flying spaceships, or just these crazy effects, and it's so different than the superhero movies that we would get, especially when you compare it to Man of Steel. And I think it does such a great job at like showing how like crazy like the world of DC is in a way. So I don't know, it's very hard to explain, but yeah, I think because of this approach of like a Star Wars type of story, like the plot is packed with like a bunch of things, like again, like the wars and like the portals, and then the evil plot of Lex Luthor like behind it in a sense. But it's just a lot to go over, but it does, I think, I found no issue in the plot or story at all. It's very entertaining. There are some moments where, like, I don't know, I feel like it kind of just drags on a little bit, but all in all, it is very well done and such a good story. It's really good. I really love I think the special effects are very good. So far I've seen no error in them at all. I think overall it's a very great job. This movie also does include a lot of like the original punk rock like type of music, which is also like pretty cool. That's something that Superman is gonna be known for as well, is just for its soundtrack and its music, which is awesome. Overall, aesthetic wise, like the suits and everything. Now here's the thing, I do not like David Cornsmith's Superman suit. I'm just gonna say that. I think the overall winner for that goes to Henry Cavill. 100%, the Man of Steel is the best suit, and I really do not like this new Superman suit. But other than the Superman suit, everything else, like Mr. Fantastic, Green Lantern, the overall aesthetic, the city, the way the Daily Planet looks, especially just like some other areas, shown in the movie. It is very well done. It is awesomely crafted, and it's just overall really cool. It's amazing. But yeah, like effects and everything, the fight scenes, like there are so many, like surprisingly more fight scenes than I thought. Like, dude, the action, the effects and everything, the choreography for the fight scenes, the way just Superman is just like fighting these evil bad guys, it is so amazing. And thankfully it is not as dragged out as it was in Man of Steel. Like, Man of Steel is known for its fights, but again, like Superman just does it, this new Superman just does it like so much better. You could you could almost feel the hits just by like the sound effects. Again, just the overall choreography, the movements, just the conflict at stake, the situation, the risks. It is so well done. And again, it feels more impactful and more real here in Superman than it does in Man of Steel. And it is just so amazing. The fights in this movie, I will say, are way better than the entire Dragon Ball Z fight that Man of Steel did. There are a few things here that I didn't like. One especially that I disliked the most was there was a certain point in the movie where, like, you know, Superman is like kind of down on his character growth, and there are some questionable lessons, like questionable themes, and just some that were just like kind of wrong. And that's something I'm clearly against. I'm planning on making a video about that actually in the future. But again, without wanting to give out like any spoilers, there are some things, like some questionable lessons and stuff that that, you know, are just not good. So I wish they would have done that better. I do not like the misuse of God's name or his title. You know, the Father's name. You have Jesus's name and the Holy Spirit's name being misused a few times, which is unfortunate. And also, there is like some mild, crude language, which is, I don't know, it is mild, but it's thing is that like Superman is like a timeless, like fictional superhero, and it's a superhero for like all ages. So parents are gonna be taking their kids to see this movie, and to be honest, if I was a parent, I personally would not want my children to be hearing that type of language, even in a superhero movie like Superman. So yeah, those were just like not really good. There was also some moments in this movie where it's like kind of corny, but that's also kind of like what James Gunn was like kind of going for. He kind of wanted to make this film a little bit corny, and it's a little bit cringy at a certain moment. But again, it's not that big of a deal. Like it's okay. Like it's bearable. Like some moments are kind of cheesy and corny, but I think that kind of gives it a little bit more charm. And you know what? I'm happy about that. So I cannot complain. I think just other things are like, I kind of wish that Lois and Superman's relationship developed a little bit more. I was hoping we could get a little bit more focus than what we got in Superman, but like it's fine. It's good for what we got. So, you know, but other than like the scene that I'm thinking of with like the terrible messaging and just a little more like lack of character like development between certain characters, I think everything else in this movie is very enjoyable and very well done. As the first film to the DCU, I think this is a very good start. Honestly, I really do think it is. And there's a bunch of things in this movie that sets up for future movies. You'll see if you go and see the movie. There's a lot of stuff that just sets itself up, and you can see where they're gonna go with this. But as just an introduction to the DCU, yeah, I think this movie does a very good job. You know, you got character development, you got a great introduction of a character, you can kind of see the world building, the style of the movie, the way James Gunn wants to tell his story, the aesthetic wise. It's going to be interesting. I think it's a great introduction, and I'm very excited to see where the future of the DCU goes from here. But yeah, I mean, this movie, as a Superman movie, this is a very good movie. Again, as we all know, Superman is a character about hope, justice, fairness, you know, masculinity, the right type of masculinity. And for a lot of things, this movie does a good job on that. So to present Superman in a light where, you know, he's the salt of the earth, not the salt of the earth, but like he's part of the salt of the earth, to let his light shine, to protect people and to save people and to do good for the world. There's a lot of times that is very important for his character, to do good and to be good. Like in some like kind of fight scene, you'll see Superman go off to the side and kind of just like save the smallest like bit of animals, which goes to show you like how much like he appreciates and sees the value of life, even in the smallest creatures that we would normally kind of just like disregard. So Superman kind of just represents that kind of light and salt, and that is something that we need to see more of. And I'm very happy that this movie takes like that into heart and makes that the core of who Superman is. As you know, Jesus calls us to be the light of the world and to salt the earth, to let our light shine, so, and to do good works in the will of the Father. So in that sense, I'm very happy that like that's sort of like the core of the Superman character. So that makes me very happy to see. And then we're gonna go back to Man of Steel, since I mentioned it so much. This movie is very different than Man of Steel. It very is. But in terms of Superman movie, like as a Superman movie and as a film in general, I'm sorry, like I might get some flack for this, and I actually have a video coming out. By the time that this video goes up, a new video will be dropping this Thursday, I think, of why Man of Steel is such an awful, not just an awful movie in general, or no, it's like a decent movie, but as a Superman movie, it is awful. I have a video dropping on why that is this Thursday, but comparing it to Superman, does James Gunn's new Superman surpass Man of Steel? And by a large margin, yes, it does. 100% it does. It is way better than Man of Steel, character-wise, story-wise, action-wise, effects-wise. It is amazing in almost every single way. It is way better. There are some similarities between there are some failures in this new Superman movie that I see that also happened in Man of Steel, which I'm kind of upset about, but it does more right than wrong. So in that sense, you know, when you look taking these films into a whole, yeah, James Gunn's Superman is way better than Man of Steel. And my overall rating for this film, I think it's going to be an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10. I think an 8 out of 10 is going to be my rating for this movie. But with that being said, I am very excited to see where the DCU goes. And I'm excited to see how this movie will set up so many things for future DCU films. I think this is a very good entry. I'm very excited for the future, and I really hope I will be here to experience it. But yeah, if you guys have watched this movie, let me know your thoughts of it in the comments down below. You know, share your opinions on my review of the film. What are some things that you like, that you dislike? Try to keep spoilers out of it in case of like other people who haven't watched the movie want to know how other people think of it. So try to keep spoilers out if you can. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you all have enjoyed, and if you did, please feel free to share my videos or support by liking or subscribing. That would be greatly appreciated. But I hope you all have enjoyed, and God bless. See you later.